Welcome back to Hockey Talks, and yes, before you say anything, this jersey is from when I was 12 years old. So it's been a while. I need a new jersey. I get it.
Is that the last time you won the cup?
We will not talk about that. Anyways, Carl, Dave here. Let's get right into it. Instead of commenting on my jersey, let's comment on the Toronto Maple Leafs right there.
There we go.
Who just moved on to the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs against, guess who? The Florida Panthers. They cleaned up in Game 6 against the Ottawa Senators, winning 4-2 with an empty net goal.
Austin Matthews finally comes out to play. Got a goal, I believe the first goal of the series. Had me a little worried when they had 2-2, but they scored with like 5 minutes left in the third period and then fought it off, and Nylander got that wicked awesome empty net goal. So this team is different, and it's built different. I'm sure we've all heard that. But I don't really know if people necessarily have gone into the reasons as to why they think it's built different. I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but one of my personal things that I think they did different this year that made the biggest change was the coach.
Absolutely.
A lot of people are saying the players and the chemistry, and absolutely, but the coach is a big change that happened. And look at what happened to the Jersey Devils under Keefe.
Yep. First round.
Yeah. So what do you think the biggest? Do you agree with the coach, or would you say maybe any players that they added adds a certain depth to the team?
Craig Berube has a big part in this, right?
Yes.
He has him playing the way he wants him to play, right? A completely different style of play, like a more aggressive in front of the net kind of deal.
Yep.
But yet you have your really good defenseman that they picked up over the off season, right? So I think all around they're just a better team. Much better team. And Mitch Marner.
Yeah, he's been performing in the playoffs, which is very
in the playoffs, which is a
interesting.
Huge difference, right?
Yeah.
Last year's he disappeared in the other series, so it's good to see him actually start producing something in the playoffs, and they needed him. I think that was one of the big things why they couldn't get that production out there and get that extra goal, right? Because Marner is that guy that can do it for them.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a really well-rounded team, and the equal effort from everybody. It's good to see Tavares not end up getting injured by that elbow, and he bounced back, and he's been playing phenomenal hockey amongst everybody else on the team. And after last week's episode, we actually went into what we thought would happen if Ottawa had won that Game 4, and that exact thing happened. The Ottawa won Game 4, and they went back, and Ullmark had a really, really good game, shutting out the Leafs. And a second thing, too, is that Toronto just came off of a winning streak when they lost the Ottawa Senators. It takes a couple games to kind of get back into it. I'm just surprised that Toronto got back into it so early. Because usually when you're off a winning streak, it takes a few games, right? You get your losses. And that's why I think this Game 6 win is such a big deal. Because they very well could have lost. I was expecting them to lose again and go into Game 7. But I mean, my initial prediction before the thing was I think 5 or 6 games. But regardless, the team came around and they hustled and bustled with the new coach, and they got the win. Now they're going on to play Florida Panthers, which is going to be a very, very tight series. And I think it's a little bit better than watching both Tkachuks play right now. Brady Tkachuk against Matt Tkachuk. We'll save that one for next year.
Well, if they play each other, I guess. Then maybe they can meet in the first round next year.
That'll be great.
Absolutely. And then we'll have another Toronto-Montreal battle next year. There we go. But let's flip to the Ottawa Senators for a brief moment here.
I guess so.
They played incredibly well, right? They had
not well enough though.
Not well enough, but I mean, the first time they played, it's like probably more than half their team has never played in the playoffs before, right? So they fought to get in the playoffs. You knew this time was coming for them. They had a lot of young and up and coming guys that were just right on the edge of being great, right? And them making the playoffs is a big step. They pushed it to Game 6. You know, they always give the Leafs a lot of trouble when they play them. So I think they had a very, very good season, and it's a very, very bright future in Ottawa, I think.
Yeah, I think with the newness of the team, or the freshness of the team, you can't expect them to make a deep run in the playoffs. And, you know, getting a 6 games worth of playoff experience, I think, is worth it for them. They're going to come back next year. They're going to have some of their jitters out, some of the playoff jitters, and they'll be a much more competitive team. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
But no, one of the main things was the coaching change. And our old coach, Toronto Maple Leafs old coach, actually went to Jersey. And it just so happens that he's a part of my top 3 countdown for the most punchable coaches. So you'll have to see if you think these same things and maybe comment who you actually think. But at number 3, it's Paul Maurice. And he has the most dad at parent-teacher interview vibes I've ever seen. He's always smirking like he knows something that we don't, which I just find super, super uncomfortable. So, do you guys agree? Number 2 is John Tortorella. And now he's always yelling, he's always benching players, he's always calling out the media. He's a pretty aggressive guy.
Fiery guy.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it's always your fault. It's never his fault, it's always your fault. And he could start a fight in an empty locker room. Ha ha ha. Now, number 1 here, this is the guy I was talking about, Sheldon Keefe. Now, he's got one kind of quirky trait that just bothers me. And you probably don't notice it, but when I tell you, you will. Now, every single goal against that his team gets, he always looked like he's taking a big, juicy bite out of a lemon, and it's really weird. It makes me feel uncomfortable every time I see it. So, specific shout-out, actually, to Lindy Ruff, Grumpy Uncle Energy since 2003. And that's my list of top coaches.
The countdown.
Let me know if you agree, or what other coach you'd like to see get punched.
Yeah, very punchable coaches. That was fantastic.
In other news.
In other news. But the countdown. Look for it next week.
Yes.
It'll happen again.
Absolutely.
Florida. Speaking of Paul Maurice.
Yes.
Very punchable coach. I'm pretty sure the Tampa Bay Lightning would love to punch them right now.
And when they won, I could see that
dismantled the Florida or the Tampa Bay Lightning, right?
Yes.
That is crazy. I did not see this coming.
When you play a team where all their players aren't playing, it becomes a pretty easy win.
Like with all the Tampa's not playing?
Yeah, Tampa. They just didn't perform.
They didn't, no.
At all. Or whether you want to see Florida didn't let them perform.
Kucherov disappeared. He had, I think, 3 points of the entire series.
Yeah.
It's like, where did he go? And I don't know. Nobody showed up. They had a few injuries, right? But still, I did not expect Florida to. I expected Florida to play well and probably go to game 6 or 7. I think I said, but
I thought 7, or 6. I forget
Florida
exactly.
just you wiped them out. The games that they won weren't even close.
And you know what? I think a big factor in this is people often forget that when you're a Stanley Cup defending champion, you have a lot of playoff experience. You know what it takes to win. Yeah. I don't think anybody's seen it going in 5 games, I believe, is what it went at. Yeah. But that's just the way the cookie crumbles in this case. And leads on to Florida playing the next round. Could Tampa have done anything better to win those games? I mean, their top performers could have scored more goals. But, I don't know if Florida played their usual way of just clogging the net. That's the way Tampa Bay plays, and that's the way Columbus plays. Mm-hmm. And maybe they just they took the 50-50 draw and ended up winning most of the battles, right? So
yeah. I don't know. They seem like a very, very strong team. They had no problem walking all over them, right? So we'll see what happens again with the Toronto and Florida series that comes up.
But that's also where I see things, because Toronto, when they actually played against Ottawa in the first round, a big reason why it was so difficult is, obviously the season series, Ottawa won. Mm-hmm. But with Toronto, they've been practicing playing teams like Florida and Tampa and Columbus all year, and just playoff hockey. Because the deeper it gets in the playoffs, the more players are going to clog the front of the net. Yeah. And that's how Toronto's been playing. So when you play a team that doesn't do that, and Ottawa doesn't do that, they more or less just stand there looking like they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
But they don't actually clog the front of the net blocking those shots like Florida does anyways. That's why I think it'll be a new series. It'll be a lot different than the Ottawa-Toronto series. Mm-hmm. It'll be a lot different than Florida-Tampa Bay. So we'll see where it lies. It'll lay somewhere in the middle there.
Yeah, absolutely. Edmonton. Now this series has been a roller coaster, big time. LA take a 1-0 series lead.
Yeah.
Edmonton stormed back at home to tie it up, and then going back to LA, where LA has hardly lost a game all season.
Yep.
Just absolutely dismantled the LA Kings in that game. It wasn't even close. They just shot attempts, shots on goal, just chances, everything.
So what happened there?
I think they're a tired group. Their head coach has elected to play only 13 players. He's shortened his bench a lot within the last 3 games to try to go. But I mean, 13 guys. I mean, you can't. Your players are going to get. Your players going to get tired, right? I mean, Drew Doughty's not a young guy anymore. He can only do so much, right? And Edmonton's playing their entire lines, right?
Yeah.
They look fresh, ready to go, and you can see it on the LA Kings if they're slowly wearing down. And that bad challenge on game 3 where Edmonton won, that was a terrible call by the head coach there. It was he's just slowly pulling apart this hockey team that has been great up until now. And the Edmonton Oilers took advantage of it, and they're back in this series, and they're back at home.
But this is also what we said, Edmonton went down 2 home games, or 2, I guess, away games. They went down. And we made a video about, saying that Edmonton has them right where they want them. Yep. And the point that they proved is that they can score on LA at home.
Yeah.
So, yes, they came back and they ended up losing that one game. I think it was game 2 or something. Or one of those 2. Anyways, they proved that they could score on the goalie and they could score on the team. And sure enough, all they need to do now is win one of LA's home games. Now they've done that.
Yeah.
And now they're playing tonight. We don't really know what's happening as of recording. They're playing, so we'll see how it shakes up. But if they win, well, obviously it's over for LA. And if they lose, well, Edmonton's already shown LA that they could beat them at home.
Yeah.
So it'll be very interesting to see how that one shakes out.
Yeah. At first they thought, did you hear about this? The power of the harmonicas? You heard about that? Yeah. You didn't hear about it? Oh, where they got it was backed by popular demand. Started in game 1. They were backed by
that anthem thing?
Yeah. With the harmonica. The Korean senior ladies that played the harmonica. Yeah. They were like, yep, got to bring them back because that's the winning ways. And then, so that didn't work out so well in game 5, so LA lost, but we'll see. Maybe it's shifted. Maybe
superstition. I love it.
Yeah, a lot of superstitions in the NHL, but those harmonicas, they're going to be ringing again.
I guess they're going to get pretty dusty. Yeah. They should be if they lost that game.
If they go to game 7, you'll hear the harmonicas again.
Yeah.
Yay. Go to game 7. Yeah. Fantastic. Let's go. Yeah.
Montreal also just took a big loss.
They did, yeah.
Yeah. They're out of the playoffs, actually.
Yeah. Washington beat them in 5 games, right?
Yeah.
People expected Washington to take this series. Once again, Montreal's a very young team. Most of those guys have never played a playoff game in their life, right? So it was a good showing out by Montreal, right? They made an effort. They made a game out. They won a game in the playoffs. Yeah. So that's a good start. But Washington just... that's a strong team, right? And Ovi continues to score. So,
and here's the funny thing about Montreal and Ottawa, both kind of being new rebuilds and back in the playoffs, is both those teams should have felt really good about how they played.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they just didn't win. You can feel as good as you want about how you played. You're not a winning team.
You didn't win.
They made the game close, yes, absolutely, but they couldn't push it over the edge.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between an experienced, good team, or maybe a lucky team, one of the two, and a new team in the playoffs. And that's kind of where I lie. So Montreal very well could have pushed it into the next game, but it still would have ended the same in my opinion.
Yeah.
You can only get that lucky so many times.
Yeah. Washington's too good of a team, right?
Yeah.
So Washington moves on to play Carolina now, which will be a fantastic series, I think.
Yeah, I'm going for Carolina, but I'm just actually thinking, has there so far been any upsets? If Edmonton, I think that would be the first one because they're under LA.
Yeah, they were under LA. Yeah. I don't know if I'd consider. Don't know if I'd consider an upset because.
But technically, it would.
LA you'd think Edmonton would win that series over the past years. They have, right? So,
yeah.
But another upset would be the Blues, but they're not winning now either. So there hasn't been no upsets yet.
Yeah.
No, and looks like.
So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. So it looks like Vegas has had a 3-2 series lead over the Minnesota Wild, going back into Minnesota for Game 5 or Game 6. And then St. Louis fell last night to Winnipeg. So Winnipeg now has a 3-2 series lead, going back into St. Louis on Friday.
Where are we going to expect them to lose?
What?
We can expect Winnipeg to lose in St. Louis, I think.
They might, yeah. St. Louis has been a strong team, right?
Yeah.
Giving them lots of troubles. Now, with Mark Scheifele out, he's not going to be back either, right?
Yeah.
So, we'll see how that goes in St. Louis on Friday. The one that intrigued me.
Intrigued.
The series that intrigued me the most, I think, was Minnesota getting a couple wins on Vegas.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I mean, besides the Florida-Tampa stuff, okay, that was completely blown out of the water. But, I mean, Gustafsson got pulled the other night with Fleury in that. Because, I don't know, he didn't get pulled. He just missed the game. Fleury got to play a playoff game. So, that was fantastic.
Yeah.
But ultimately lost in overtime. So, it wasn't a great ending for him.
Yeah.
But Minnesota's made this a great series, right? So, I have a feeling Minnesota's going to win this in Vegas. No, win this in Minnesota. Before they go back to Game 7 in Vegas.
Yeah.
I think they're going to take the series.
I think Vegas has got it. 110%.
I think Vegas is going to take it. They look like they're starting to light things up, right? So, but we'll see. There's a few games left in the final round of this first round of the NHL playoffs. And then we're off to round 2 where we have a couple battles already in store and ready to roll. Thanks again for watching Hockey Night or Hockey Tonight. And we will see you next time.
Adios.